This video is called Farming in Mt St Helens Ash 1980. And some of you might know, some of you might not remember. Dude, in 1980, Mt St Helens, which is a volcano that had been dormant for hundreds and hundreds of years, blew on May 18th, 1980. Well, for a couple months, the geologists and seismologists, they had warnings that something was going on with this mountain. And they knew something was going to blow on it. And then a couple weeks before she blew, the site of it started to grow out a little bit, but nobody really expected it to blow off when it did. And most people's thoughts were if a volcano blew, it would either be steam or maybe lava that would just pour down and not go very far. Now, Mt St Helens is on western Washington state. We live in eastern Washington state near the Idaho border. So this is a very nice Sunday morning, about 9 o'clock. I was outside, the sun was shining, beautiful day. I heard a sonic boom. I go in the house after a while, my mom had the television on. Well, Mt St Helens blew. So that was not a sonic boom, which I thought would be Air Force. I thought it was Air Force jets flying over, breaking the sound barrier. So no, that was a volcano that blew. They started talking about an ash cloud on TV. We didn't pay too much attention to it. We had lunch, kept watching the news. About 1 o'clock, started getting kind of cloud cover. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was completely dark. And it was falling ash. Ash, they were like bigger than snowflakes. And the ash smelled like sulfur. And it was a real eerie feeling because it was so quiet outside with that ash falling in complete darkness. And what was really strange, the birds, they all went back to their trees. They knew it wasn't nighttime, but they went to their trees and they were all chirping to each other. That was kind of strange. We wondered if we were going to see daylight the next morning, but we weren't scared. We kept watching the news that night. And back then in 1980, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have drones. You couldn't go out like this and just take a picture with a GoPro or anything. We depended on the news media to show videos and listen to the radio. So the morning time comes, we got up, and the sun was shining. Well, boy, we had about 2 inches of ash where we were at, and it was on everything, and this stuff just clinged to you. The particles were so small, it went to a lot of people lost engines in their cars and trucks because the ash went right through the air filter. We did not lose anything. A lot of us was farm tractors. We would raise the air intake, a few feet, be pretty high. We had a Donaldson air cleaner on our Steiger and our HD9 tractor. We raised the air cleaners. We had what's called aspirators on the exhaust pipes. And we had a flexible tube that went to the air intake up on top of the intake stack. It went to the exhaust pipe, and the exhaust it was a pre-cleaner is what it was. And blew so much percentage of dirt out. Frankly, we did okay. The only thing that really got ruined was that John Deere 2020 you've seen on my channel here. Just driving around, the little breather on the transmission sucked in a bunch of ash in the transmission. It wrecked a hydraulic pump, but it still lift. But a few years later, I took the transmission apart and cleaned it all out. So anyway, we're going along here a few days, and nobody knew what to do for a while. And just, so our cows, they had like an inch of ash on their back. Up on the power poles, the crosswood members where the insulators are, ash everywhere. Well, it rained. Well, that's good. It washed the ash off the power poles and everything. But it made a little crust on the ground of the ash, which looked, hey, this is going to be good. But as soon as you touched it or stepped on it or drove on it, it turned back to powder. So now we're going to go to about a month later. I'm working summer follow. Nobody knew what to do with this stuff. So we had a chisel plow that we took the points off and put sweep bottoms on it. So I was out there making my summer follow, because back in 1980, no-till or minimum till was just in early stages. Most people were still conventional farming. So we're out there, and the dust was so fine. This Mt St Helens ash just rolled up the tires of your tractor and just stayed with you everywhere you go. You could see your mark, but it was bad. So I decided one night I'm going to go up the field about 10 o'clock and try cultivating after dark with the lights on the tractor. Well, it was still pretty bad, but I could see a little bit better. So I spent that summer cultivating at night. I would go to the field at 8 o'clock at night, get on that Steiger tractor, and I would run all the way through until 5:30 in the morning. I'd come home, eat breakfast, I'd try to sleep. It was horrible. I couldn't change my sleeping hours. I got maybe 4 hours of sleep, maybe 5 at the most, and I was up by noon, and I just couldn't go back to sleep. Well, one night, I'm up on this hilltop, and I just made about 4 rounds. So we're going along on this next hill, and to the right of me was a steep sod bank hillside I wanted to stay away from. So I made about 4 rounds with this 30-foot chisel sweep machine. And the way I did it at night, the dust just stayed with the tractor anywhere you turned and anywhere you went. I would find the moon and use it as a focal point, even though I could see my mark. So I was going straight ahead. I look up, the moon was there. I come to the corner, I turn left, I'd go this way, the moon was behind me. I'd go down to the other end of the field, I'd turn left again, the moon would be to my left. I did this. So I'm going along, I go around this one end, and I do my corner, and I started to get worried because it's just like the world was never ending. I just couldn't focus on anything. I got disoriented in the dust. I stopped the tractor. And where the moon was supposed to be out front my window was not there. It wasn't to the left, it wasn't to the right, it was behind me. And that scared me because that meant that that steep sod bank hillside was to my left and not my right. And if I would have not stopped, you know, there's a possible I could have went over the edge. Things like that. And I've went 42 years, and this is the first time I've ever told anybody about that experience using the moon as a focal point, because it's hard to explain how bad this dust was when you're farming unless you actually drove tractors and lived in it. So anyway, comes harvest time. Well, we found out that summer we had the best crop production we had in years, and the ash had actually sealed the moisture in the ground. So in my area here in Whitman County, Washington, I'm near St. John, normal wheat production per acre in 1980 was 70 bushels or a little more. That year we made 90 bushel. Barley, 1.5 ton to 2 ton barley to an acre. We had 2 ton and 2.5 ton an acre that summer. It was good. Combining wasn't as bad as you thought because the wheat and the barley is higher, you know, and the stubble kind of held the dust down a little bit. So my daughter asked me yesterday, how long did the ash stay on the ground? You know, and that's hard to say. I would say 2 to 3 years, and then it got to the point, ash kind of worked its way down in the ground as new dust came in, but you always saw it on the side of the roads, on still the hillsides. For several years you would see ash just up on the banks of stuff. So what our farming outfit was back then in 1980, it was Alice Chalmers HD9 tractor that you see on this channel, and it was also the 95 John Deere combine you see on this channel. And that Steiger tractor, there's been pictures of it on my channel. And we also had an International 453 combine that we harvested with. I don't have any pictures of that. That's the kind of machinery we had back then. In 1980, I believe, the first International Axle Flow combine in 1470 came out in our area, but we were using those older combines. So that was quite an adventure, farming. Branding cattle that spring, it was a little difficult because the cattle had that ash in their hair and their hide, and we had to sit there and, you know, they had to cook through a little bit more to put a brand on. We wore masks all the time. I mean, we talk about wearing masks now, but in 1980, everybody, right after Mountain Blue, you either wore a mask or they had handkerchiefs over their face, and it was just bad. People were scooping ash with their tractor to get it out of the way. Road graders were just plowing it off the road. It was just terrible stuff. Our dog, that night, for a few days, you know, we kept him in the house at night. Our cats, you know, they lived out in the shop in the barn. They were all right, but it was just, it's just unbelievable. And we've kept some ash a little bit over the years. My mom kept some, and I know somebody, my former ag teacher's got several cans of it. What for? I don't know, folks, but it's just one of those things. So this is my story of farming in 1980, Mt St Helens ash I wanted to share with everybody. So